It's just loading. Yay.
Oh, it's live. Oh, it's live.
Yeah.
Quick. You have to run with it.
Okay, just gonna 1 second. Imani.
Oh, Emily's here.
Hello. Hey, hi Emily. Hi Emily, can you hear us? Hello. Oh, we had Emily just a second ago, she just disappeared.
Oh no.
Hi Emily.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Emily.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
My video will come up soon. We're just YouTube, some people who can be able to join in if they choose.
How many were you expecting to join?
Expect about 40, over 41 signs so far.
Oh, okay. Quite a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's really good. So just to also have Barbara, the CEO of Elevation Network. She's also going to be joining sort of the first half of the webinar.
Cool.
Hi. Yeah, so she's also going to be joining us. And just a quick run through. So at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to see there are several icons. There's a Q&A icon. That's the one that the participants will click on if they want to ask questions.
Okay, cool.
And they can either ask questions by typing it up, or they can do so by asking to join, so they can everyone can actually everyone can hear them.
Yeah.
And also, I'm trying to think. I think those are the main things to note. I think those are the main things. Other than that, oh, you've disappeared.
Oh.
So we will be able to. They'll be able to see us, but we won't be able to see them because I've set it so they can only join in by just joining with their video playing.
Okay, so would we normally, those of us who are on the line, we'll keep our video on and then they can see us, but yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. So I can still hear you, but I've lost your video now.
Oh, I'm back on. I don't know what happened there. I had a heart attack. It just disappeared. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't have any video still, but...
Oh, can you not see me?
No.
Is it back on now?
Just give it a minute. No.
Oh no, what's happened? That's not good.
Can you see me again? I put my video back on.
I can see you.
Okay, cool, because I was faffing with the buttons on the bottom.
Oh, so can you not see me still?
No.
Ah, that's strange. No, don't need that right now. No, is it still?
Yeah, I still can't see anything.
Oh, that's really annoying. Oh, what can I do? Back to meeting. Any better now?
No. Do you have to be? Can you leave and then join again?
I think if I leave, it might end the whole
End the
thing.
call completely because you guys started it.
It says I can leave without ending it, but I don't know if I can rejoin. Trust there
No,
to
I
be.
think if you leave, then it might because you're hosting it. So I think it would cancel it for everybody. So you'd have to start it again.
Well, it says please assign another host before you click leaving. Okay,
Okay.
I'll assign. Let me see if I can assign. Make a host. I'll make you both a host just in case.
Okay.
I'll try that. So I've made you the host.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so hopefully, and then it leaves if I can join again.
Should I be able to see the video of anybody else?
I mean, can you see me?
Oh, I can now.
Okay. I don't know what happened there, but I think he's back.
Hi. Is this better now? Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. I can now see you, but I've lost. I think it only shows one person at a time. So now you're back. I can't see Colette anymore.
I think maybe if we're talking, then you can see us.
Oh, yeah, that's the way it works.
Oh, okay, that's all. Okay, that's fine. Cool.
Okay,
That's
can you make
clever.
me host? Lex, can you make me host, please? On your, you can hover over my screen, and there's a drop down. There's like little dots. You just show a drop down.
Okay. That should be done now, yeah?
Yeah, have you made me host?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, we should have, people should start joining. We should start having people join soon. But we're not broadcasting, so hopefully when people start joining us, we have one participant, I believe. Hi, good afternoon. Who do we have? Oh, we have people joining in. Fantastic. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope you're all well and you can see myself, smiling away. And my name is Oris. I'm just waiting for a few more people to join in. And yes, we have more people joining in now. So hi, good afternoon, guys. My name is Oris Akomi from Elevation Networks. I am so happy to have you all joining us today, and we're looking forward to hearing your questions and, having a, interesting a conversation about the civil service program. And we have with us today, we have three panelists joining us today. I'm so excited. So we have Barbara Kasuba, who's the CEO of Elevation Networks. Hi, Barbara, give us a wave. So Barbara will be joining us in the first half of the live Q&A session, and we also have Colette from the civil service. She's currently on the Summer Diversity Internship Program, and she'll be sharing her experiences working in the civil service. And we also have, last but not least, Emily Bentley, who will be sharing. She's a current fast streamer, who will be also answering questions as well as sharing the experience about the civil service fast stream program. So, guys, I am super excited. We have someone with their hand up already. That's good. So, bear with me. I'll come back to you shortly. I'm just going to do a quick run through of how today is going to go, and then we can start taking questions from everyone. I am super excited. I hope you guys are excited as well. So I'm, as I've all said in my email, we're here as an organization to help you and give you the best possible chance to have a successful application. So just a quick run through about today's structure. So about Elevation Networks, we are an award-winning employment charity, award-winning youth employment charity that develops the leadership skills in young people as well as students, graduates, and working professionals. We're here to connect people with high-profile employers like the civil service to create opportunities for people from underrepresented background as well as people not in education and training, and people from the sort of Black, Asian, minority, ethnic community. And we are one of the key partners with the civil service on the fast stream and diversity internship program, providing opportunities again to students who are interested in the program. And we are here, working with the civil service to support you guys with your application process and give you as much information about the program to help you make an informed decision about the civil service program. So that's just a bit about us as an organization. So in terms of how today is going to go, so we have about 45 minutes to an hour during this live Q&A webinar. So the whole idea is for you guys to ask any questions that you have, and just to also get to find out from Colette and Emily to hear about their experiences as well. So we have, like I said, about 45 minutes to an hour. So and also just a quick, if you want to ask a question, there is a Q&A button. You should be able to see it at the bottom of your screen. So if you click on that and to ask your question, or alternatively, if you want to ask a question so everyone can hear you, what I would suggest is to put your hand up. Again, it should be an icon on your screen as well, which will allow you to put your hand up. Then that will be able to allow you into the call so everyone can actually hear your question live. So that's a bit about me and the blabbing on. I'm just going to hand over to Colette and Emily as well as Barbara to introduce themselves and just to say a bit about who they are, and then we will crack on. Who would like to go first?
Start?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, yeah. So hi guys, I'm Colette, and I am a Summer Diversity Internship Program intern, or SDIP intern for short. I'm currently on my 10th week here, so I work at the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, which is DEFRA. So I work on data assets, and I'm doing data sharing. So basically, it's like all the legal and techie aspects of data sharing, who can you share with, who can't you share with, all the consequences. So that's basically my main role, but also I've done some shadowing opportunities in private office. So if you want to know more about that, then I can tell you about that. I've also done some shadowing in a foreign Commonwealth office in BASE, which is the Department for Business, Innovation, and something else. I'm really bad at acronyms, but with BASE as well, and also in MOJ. So if you just wanted to know about the SDIP in general, or just the first part of the fast stream process up until the E-Trade, and I can tell you about that.
Fantastic. Who would like to go next? Barbara,
cool. I can give a bit more.
Emily, go next. Go for it.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Emily, and I'm currently in my first year on the fast stream. I'm doing the project delivery fast stream. So I've been working for the MOJ for this past year. On a would
that be the Ministry of MOJ? What's the?
Yeah, the MOJ, Ministry of Justice. Basically, they're responsible for courts, prisons, that sort of stuff. So I've been working on the Prison Estate Transformation Program, which is basically a big infrastructure program that's dealing with the fact that a lot of our prisons are very old, they're very inefficient, they were built in Victorian times, so they don't really facilitate rehabilitation as we would like them to. So the idea of the program, generally speaking, is to close down some of our old estate and build some new prisons that are actually going to be able to deliver the types of regime that people that we would like to see across our estate. So that's what I've been doing for the past year. And I'm about to move my posting eventually, and I'll move in October, and I'll be moving to the Home Office.
Fantastic. Thank you. And last but not least, Barbara.
most talented young people from the most diverse communities, whether that's diversity of race, diversity of income, or diversity of disability. And we want to ensure that we can make sure that you can put your best foot forward. So we're here to help, really. So please feel free, use webinars as an opportunity to ask loads of questions. I won't be able to stay long on this one, but I am available if anyone wants to drop me a line or ask any questions. And we're really here to make sure we get you from A to B in the smoothest way possible. And we're really grateful for both Emily and Colette and the other fast streamers and interns for coming on and supporting us and really giving their personal insight and experience into what it's like to be a fast streamer. So yeah, thank you all for joining me today. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Barbara. I hope, yes, I think there might be an issue with the sound, but I hope everyone heard that properly. Well, thank you for sharing that. And guys, as I said earlier, so we're good to go. And I think we already have a question already. So as I said earlier, guys, feel free to ask as many questions as possible. And the whole point of this Q&A, this is about, again, asking questions and having your questions answered. So the first question, and also guys, just to say, if you want to ask Emily a question, if I get you, so indicating your question, say this is for Emily, or if it's for Colette, also indicate in the questions, say this is for Colette, so that way they know, so we know who's answering, who the question's been directed to. And likewise, if it's for Elevation Networks, also directed to myself. And I'm just going to take the first question. It's from someone who's saying, so Emily's going to answer this question. Go for it, Emily.
I'm actually in a similar position. So I don't know if it came in from anonymous. So yeah, so I'm in the same position as the person who was basically asking about whether or not you could stay in the same location if you have a disability reason. That is totally fine. You basically just request. You will have somebody called your cohort leader who's kind of responsible for looking after. So you have your work line manager and they look after you and your posting, but you also have your cohort leader and they're responsible for you as a fast streamer, kind of more of a pastoral type of role. So you would basically just raise it with them and they'll put a note on your file that means that you can stay put in one location. So I've been in London for my first location, I'll be in London for my next one. The other thing to say is that actually for those who don't have restrictions on their location, you will be expected to move at least for one of your postings to somewhere else in the country. So yeah.
And to add to that, Emily, so as someone on the SDIP, perhaps Colette might be able to share on this as well. Do SDIPers also get to move?
So basically, once you get through to the SDIP, it's kind of similar to the fast stream. If you become a generalist, you kind of have a preference, first of all, of what department, well, not department, but what kind of area you want to work in. So they're really quite vague. So usually something like border control or humanitarian. And you can also get a preference in where you want to be. So because I'm from Berkshire, so I put London as my first preference, and I'm thankful I got that. So usually if you are in a position where, let's say you have care responsibilities, you have a disability, you do say that in your application. And usually you do get that position, but usually, like, let's say if you're up north, you can ask for a position in Manchester, and you usually do get Manchester. I think there's very few people who do commute from, like, say, I don't know, like Manchester to London, for example. That very rarely happens, but usually you're quite near to where you're based.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. And the next question from Elvis is, I am already interested. Oh, hang on a second. I'm already interested in the program and completed the EDIP program in 2016. Okay, I've heard much about it and will seek to apply. What sort of support can you offer during the application process of someone who didn't get through to the EDIP program? So perhaps I'll answer that question. So from Elevation Network's point of view, so this webinar, for example, is part of a list of support that we're offering candidates or interested candidates to support them with the application process. We have on the 8th of, actually on the 30th, which is next Wednesday, as well as the 1st of September. So we have two live webinars on what is the civil service fast streams. Again, that's as someone who's been on the EDIP program, so you probably know about it more than other people. So that's one program we have. We also have on the 8th of September an evening with the fast streamers and interns to actually get to talk to them as well. More of a networking, informal networking event and panel type discussion. And we have a number of trainings. So we have trainings on mock assessment days coming up as well. And we have training on, telephone interviews or video interviews. So we have a number of trainings lined up. So that's all listed in the brochure. You hopefully should have received a brochure about the diversity internship program. So that should be on there in terms of like the programs that we have coming up. Also, there's opportunity to actually have a one-to-one coaching session or a telephone drop-in session. So hope that answers your question. Again, if you want to take this conversation offline, you feel free to give us a call at Elevation Networks as well, and we can understand what help you need, and we can provide more of a tailored one-to-one support to you to help with your application process. So I hope that answers your question, Elvis. Thank you. I think that's a good question. And we'll move on to the next one. And the next question from Caden. So did the civil service and in respect to the Home Office work with the Secret Service like MI5 or MI6 Government Communication HQ, or do they work independently? Perhaps Emily or Colette might be in a better place to answer that question. Who would like to go for it?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So basically, where you will get posted for the fast stream is a whole range of central government departments, of which MI6 and all of that kind of stuff is not one of them. So if you apply to the fast stream, you won't ever get any work in that sort of remit. So if you were interested in working with GCHQ or one of the other kind of intelligence based government kind of institutes, I don't know much about their graduate roles because I didn't apply for anything myself, but I'm assuming that they are a separate part because they're certainly not part of the fast stream.
I can actually talk about MI5 and MI6 for the graduate roles. So basically, I think the requirements are kind of similar to the fast stream, so you should just need a 2-2 in your degree. But usually for these ones, they apply basically sporadically throughout the years. There isn't one set time. So I think just recently they closed the application process for this intake for the data analysis stream. But basically just go on to the MI5, MI6 website to say you're interested, and usually when they open up the applications again, you can apply. But like Emily said, the civil service and the secret services, they don't work together at all, mainly because like there's two completely different security levels you need, so we're not able to work with them at all.
Thank you, guys. And the next question is from an anonymous attendee. So the question, how many spaces are available on the fast stream program? I'll answer this one. The question, so from my understanding, I think there's over 1,000 spaces on the fast stream program for 2017, 2018. And that's what I know currently. And the next one, so guys, Emily and Colette, feel free to, if there's any question you want to answer, feel free to also select it.
Okay.
For the question as well. And so Emily's going to answer the next one.
So the one about basically A levels and whether or not you've got a degree, first class degree, great. Your A levels, I don't even remember if I even put them in there at all. I don't think it was relevant. When you fill in your application process, I think they do ask for like your education and stuff like that. I think they're more interested in the degree. If you've got a degree, great, you've passed. Though I would say as well, the thing is, when it came to the assessment process, when it came to my interview and things like that, actually the things that they were more interested in were bits of work experience I'd done, places where I could show where I'd led or been part of a team, things like that. They were actually not interested in my I did maths at uni about my degree at all, other than the fact that it showed that I was capable of studying. I think for you were saying about actually applying for the economics fast stream, so they might be more interested in that because obviously your degree is then a bit more relevant. But I don't think your A levels will impact it.
And there's something I loved last time, Emily, when we spoke briefly over the phone a few days ago. You talked about, you during your assessment, I think it was your assessment day, you talked a lot more about your personal, even life experiences, which was actually more relatable to the assessment. Because obviously, often we feel like, like as students or recent grads, you think that you got to talk about your, more of your academic qualification. But what I really liked what you said intern, you talked about your experiences being from society, being a part of a society, for example. Perhaps could you share a little bit more about that as well, to how useful that was in terms of during your assessment?
So an awful lot of the fast stream process is based around these words, this thing called the civil service competencies. And they're basically the kind of skills that they're looking for you to be able to demonstrate. And actually, they want to see examples of times when you've worked with a diverse group of people, when you have led something. What challenges did you face? How did you overcome them? That sort of thing. And actually, in my interview, I talked about a society that I was in at uni and part of a committee on. I talked about bits of work experience that I'd done over summer. I talked about places and times when I'd volunteered. Actually, very, very little of it did I actually mention my studies, because my studies tended to be at a desk on my own, and there's not really I don't think they were that interested in that. So yeah, definitely just pull from a broad range of your experiences. You'll surprise yourself at how easy it is to show a time when you have like demonstrated that competency if you look more broadly than just thinking about what have I studied.
Yeah, and that's useful. Thanks for sharing that. So guys, bear with us. If we haven't answered your question yet, we will get through all the questions. I know we have about 7 on the back left, so we will get through all your questions. So bear with us and don't give up just yet. And so I'm going to go to the next one and say from Shivani, what is a day like in the program? If I'm selected, what would the first day look like? Well, obviously, I don't know. I'm not on the program, so I suppose Colette or Emily would be in the best place to.
I think Emily would be better because she's a fast streamer.
Okay.
Your first day is not the best one to talk about, because your first day you're just setting up your computers and IT and stuff. That's really not a particularly interesting day. But basically, it really the fast stream and the civil service generally employs a huge array of people. So the roles and the types of postings you could end up in look massively different. So I can give you an example of the type of work that I've done, but that is by no means a standard posting. I think it also very much varies on which scheme you're going to choose. So if you choose generalist, for example, you're more likely to end up in a role that's to do with policy. I'm doing project delivery, so I'm working in a program that's actually delivering an output. It's delivering these prisons. So my work looks very different to somebody who is working on policy. But the type of job I've been doing is I work in this big program that's delivering these prisons, and my team is called the Program Management Office, and we are basically the information hub of the program. There are lots of different people doing lots of different jobs, like construction, design, how are we going to operate these prisons, all of these other kind of aspects of the program. And our team's kind of responsible for making sure that all those people know when they're reliant on one another, and make sure they're communicating properly, make sure we are communicating to senior people properly. So my personal job has been managing dependencies, so managing situations where the construction team can't progress with a piece of work until the closures team over here have decanted the site, i.e. all of the prisoners have left the site that we're demolishing and rebuilding. So and logging that and making sure people have communicated that. So your role, as I say, will look very different, but that's been one of my pieces of work in whilst I've been working on the program. I know other people who have worked as kind of policy advisors, so people will come to them and say, here's a problem, can you go do a bit of research on this thing, because we need to know about that to know whether or not it's a good idea. There will be people working, as Colette says, in private office. Do you want to talk a bit about your experience in private office? Because that's a type of thing you could be doing.
Yeah, I think private office is kind of unique. I don't think you can actually get to private office through the fast stream. I think it's something you need to apply through independently through civil service jobs. But for me, it was just like shadowing one of the assistants to the secretary of the private office. So basically, for people who don't know, private office is essentially the office of the ministers. So for me, in DEFRA, the private office I shadowed in is one called Lord Gardner, who's the Lord's Minister for the Department of DEFRA. So essentially for me, it's kind of like following through their day, seeing what they're doing. And for them, I guess their day is quite hectic, I think, especially compared to other ones, since their day basically revolves around the day of their minister. So if the minister's having a really quiet day, then they'll have a quiet day. If the minister needs to go to, for example, I think the actual assistant, I think, Lord Gardner had to go to Belgium one day. So we had to cancel his plans to go to Belgium on Monday, for example. So I think, like Emily said, each day is completely different. I think I've also talked to some fast streamers who work in the FCO, so for the Commonwealth Office. And for them as well, it kind of really just depends on who you're working with, what department you're working in. But I think that's a good thing about the civil service, honestly, because like there is no one day. So when you meet people after work, for example, you say what you've done today, I think it'd be very hard to find two people who've done exactly the same thing, even if they're in the same team, for example.
So there's a lot of like adaptability and flexibility required, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
fantastic.
definitely.
Thank you. So you've chosen to answer the next question, Colette. So that's the anonymous asking about the fast stream services. Would you want to read out the question so everyone else can?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question asked by an anonymous attendee is: does the fast stream service look favorably on students from widening participation backgrounds, such as poor household finance, parents not educated, ethnic minority, non-traditional education, e.g. not A-levels, etc.? So basically, I can say yes, since I'm on the Summer Diversity Internship Program, which is meant for people from ethnic minorities. I'm an ethnic minority and from a lower socioeconomic background. I didn't go to Russell Group University. I'm the first person to go to university in my family, for example. My A-levels weren't that great. I'm not going to say what they are because that's embarrassing. But basically, yeah, I think the civil service have kind of realized that.
I'm probably worse. Don't worry. I probably I didn't even finish my A-levels. So,
But I think civil service has realized that when you look at the really high echelons of the civil service, when you go into the senior civil service, it is really predominantly white, middle class, male, Oxbridge, Russell Group, that kind of thing. So like, that's not bad. It's not going to say that if you're from that kind of background, you're going to be discriminated against. It's the fact that they want to get more diverse people in, since they've realized that the more diverse a group is, the better the ideas are, which is what I've really experienced. It's like working with different people from different backgrounds. It doesn't have to be just ethnic background. Even just like going to different universities, for example, you get a different kind of feel for the world, and you get different insights. I think that's really good. So just to answer the question, I think yes, they will look favorably upon you. If you're in your final 2 years of university, I highly recommend doing the STIP program, since if you do want to go on to the fast stream, get a thing called Fast Pass, which kind of fast tracks you through the first, I think, 3 or 4 stages of the fast stream process, which is really, really great. So yeah, I think they do look really favorably upon it. So if you're from those backgrounds, if you're from any backgrounds, don't think that the civil service is not for me. The civil service is for everyone if you want to be here.
And just to add to, I think what you said is really key, because obviously sometimes perception may feel, oh no, civil service, is quite prestige. And I think Emily was sort of touched upon this briefly as well in our conversation a few days ago. So it is for everyone. It's for everyone and anyone, irrespective of your background, the color of your skin. So it is open to anyone. And, there's evidence of this. Emily, there's Colette here as well, who's actually working in the program. So irrespective of your gender as well. So, and this is why the civil service is actually partnering with organizations like Elevation Networks to actually help increase that the engagement from the Black, Asian minority ethnic community, as well as low socioeconomic backgrounds. So we want to actually stress out the message that this program, this fast stream, as well as the EDIP and SDIP, is open to anyone, and we are here to give you the best possible support possible to to help you with your application. So honestly, like I said, definitely jump on board. If you're certainly keen, apply, and we're here to support you with in that process as well. And I know from speaking to them as well, speaking to the departments within the civil service, they are keen, especially to engage within the widening participation background as well. So you're in a good place. And moving on to the next question. Again, that's from an anonymous attendee. Hello, I came across this program briefly via email yesterday. Would you be able to elaborate as to what this program entails? What I would suggest to do, because we have on the 30th, which is next Wednesday, there's a webinar which looks more in depth into what the program is. So it's titled "What is the Civil Service Fast Stream and Diversity Internship Program?" So I think that would be the best place to answer that question. So hopefully by then you'll be able to find out more about the program. Also, in the meantime, you can look through the brochure, which has a bit more information about the program. But I think that'll be the best place to answer a lot of the questions that you have. So the purpose of today is just to ask more, more like sort of generic questions and more about in terms of like finding out what the program is about. I believe that I would suggest attending that webinar where you can actually find out more about the program, or alternatively, I would suggest to give us a ring and we can discuss that over the phone to give you more of an in-depth answer. However, in the meantime, if there's anything,
I was just going to say very, very briefly to give you kind of like a 2-sentence overview. The fast stream is basically the training program, the leadership training program, really, for the civil service. And the civil service basically is the group of people that once a minister decides that they want to do something exciting or they have announced something big, who does that, right? So when you see the politicians with their manifesto and their claims about the things that they want to deliver, who actually does that is the civil service. Those are the people who are responsible for taking what the politicians say and putting that out into changes that are actually made in the country. So that's what a civil servant does. And the fast stream is basically the leadership program gearing people up to do that sort of work.
That's a perfect way of putting it together. That's a good way of putting it together. Thanks for that, Emily. Did you want to add anything as well, Colette, to that? Did you want to add to that as well? From a SDIP or from the diversity internship program perspective?
Yeah, I guess like the SDIP program and the EDIP. I mean, I haven't done the EDIP, so I can't talk too much about it. Like I kind of see like the SDIP program has like the baby program to the fast stream. So it kind of like takes people in their final 2 years of university and kind of like tests you, and it gives you an insight to the civil service. So you kind of see it's like, well, this is for me, this is not for me. It's like we're basically treated like a fast stream essentially. Like my manager on my first day, she told me, it's like, I'm not really an intern, they're just trying to treat me as if I was the fast stream. I think it's really good. Just like showing you the ropes and like just bringing you up into like the senior civil service, which is basically where they want you to be. But I think everything else has been covered really brilliantly, so I don't have too much to add.
Yeah, fantastic. And then to add as well, definitely also advise to the person asked that question to join the webinar on Wednesday or Friday next week, where we'll explain more about the program. Thank you. And the next one is, what areas of the country are the postings? I'll answer that one. You guys can add as well. Oh, Emily's. I think Emily's just. I'm
just going to say basically most major cities.
Yeah.
But yeah, if there's not, I know people who've been all over the country. Sometimes up north, sometimes Newcastle, sometimes Andover in the south. There's quite a big MOD presence in Andover. I didn't even know Andover was a place until somebody got posted there. So quite a lot of places here.
Is that in the Netherlands? Is that in the Netherlands? Andover. Is that actually in the UK? Andover.
Yeah, there's a place called Andover in the UK.
Oh really? I didn't even know that. First time I'm hearing about it. Interesting. No, thanks for that. So the next question is, how long is the application process for the fast stream program, and how does the application process work? So the application, I'll start with that, and you guys can add as well. So application officially opens on the 14th of September for all 3 programs, the fast stream, the EDIP and SDIP. And the closing stage for SDIP and fast stream is the 25th of October. And for EDIP, which is the early diversity internship program, that's on the 8th of November. And after that, so for fast stream, there is then there is the e-tray, and there's the e-tray exercise, and there is also a telephone, so a video interview, as well as assessment days. Again, the assessment days, and after the assessment days, for some of the programs on the fast stream, you have another specialist assessment sort of selection process after the assessment day. Again, that's depending on the stream that you've applied for. So, and the assessment days for fast stream, that's going to be in the new year. So I believe like between January, February, or March or so. So that's when I'd say about, would you say about 14 to 16 weeks? Is that a fair way to?
I think it depends. Like, for example, I applied for the fast stream and the ESTA, for example. I think I applied for the fast stream on the very first week it opened because I was that eager. And I think all the way from that to the video interview, that took me up to February, and in that time, some people were already having their assessment centers. So I think it doesn't even depend on what streams you apply for. It just depends on how fast they get to you. So I think they aim for like 12 weeks, but honestly, I expect it to be a bit longer just because there's so many people who are applying.
Yeah, so we'll say between mid-September till late January, I would say. It's not January, so March, or February, March,
Yeah.
I would say. And the next question, so just going through this. And next question from Steph. So Colette, you've selected to answer that one. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah, so the question that Steph asked is, how do you cope with group interviews, and do you have any tips? So although for the SDIP we don't have any group interviews, I have done some other internships in the private sector, so mainly for law, and we have had some group interviews for them. And I think in terms of tips, I think the first thing to consider is that don't be the person who always speaks over people who just wants to get their voice heard. Because even though you think like if you speak more, you'll get noticed, you do, but get noticed in a bad way. I think do speak, but when you speak, if you can notice people, like say if there's 5 of you and 4 people have spoken, there's one person maybe looks a bit shy, and maybe hasn't gotten anything in, just like say, what do you think of this? Because it's just so that you actually listen, you're looking around people and seeing, make sure everyone's actually taking part. It's not just you trying to be like, oh yes, I'm the person who's talking the most, so that means I'm going to get through. I think also just like listening to people, and I just think for good reasons, and just be yourself, I guess. Don't try and put on a hat and be like, well, everyone in civil service is this and the others have to be like that. Just go in there, introduce yourself, say, hi, I'm person A, I went blah, 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 and just like be friendly, I guess, but also be professional. Don't go in there like wagwan, bruv. Don't do that, please. Don't do that. Someone did that. That was awful. But just be professional and be friendly, and you should be fine.
Yeah. Can I add a little bit there?
Sorry, go on, Emily.
I was just going to add a little bit because I have done the group interview at the assessment centre.
That's right, yeah.
So just putting a bit more context on it. So what you will be asked to do is you'll be given a scenario that has various different options for solutions. So mine was something to do with tackling youth unemployment, I think, if I remember rightly. And you'll get given various different solutions, and you'll be given a role. So I was the financial person, basically. And so you'll kind of have like your priorities for which you think are the best solution to this problem. So obviously my priorities of the financial person was what made sense financially, like which was the best option in terms of value for money. And you'll be sat around a table with other people who have different roles and different takes on it. So I would say, again, to reiterate Colette's point, it's not about you winning. You will have your preferred option, but you don't necessarily do well if your preferred option gets chosen, and you don't necessarily do badly if your preferred option doesn't get chosen. It's about how you bring your points to that table. How do you bring your perspective? And can you do that in a way that's convincing, that uses the information that you've been given at the start, that is keeping the team on task in timeframes, because often that can get very, very you're tight for time, so you need to come to a decision quite quickly. So making sure the team is aware of their time, and so yeah, basically don't go at it like, oh dear, my option didn't get chosen, that means that I failed that test. It is to do with how you work with the others in the room to come to a conclusion that you all have consensus on.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, just also to add to that, I think one thing I've learned is with interviews or assessment days is also understanding what employers looking for in those tests, because sometimes they're looking at behavioral stuff, so how do you, like Colette said earlier, how looking at other people, it's actually it's about testing like how you work in a team, or how are you empathetic, you're a team player rather than be the one who's always like being the loudest and so on and so forth. So my key would be go online as well, do some research. Actually, what do employers look for? What's the purpose of assessment days? What are the sort of qualities or sort of non-tangible things that they're looking for as well? So that'll give you hope to have an understanding in terms of actually how to prepare for assessment days as well, how to cope with them. And I think also, like everything in life, is about being yourself and letting your personality shine through, because sometimes, honestly, in being yourself, you tick a lot of the boxes without even knowing you are doing so. So it gives be genuine, be honest, be sincere, and be who you are, and act the same how you would act on a day-to-day basis if you're in the workplace, for example. That's another thing I would add as well. I hope that answers your question, Steph. And we're going to go. So, guys, again, we have about 18 questions. We'll get through all the questions, so please bear with us. We're going through them one after the other. So, if your question hasn't been answered yet, it will get answered. So, just please bear with us. Thank you. And the next one from an anonymous attendee: how does the fast stream work for mature students? So, is there anything in particular you'd like to know? So, whoever, to the person who's asked that question, could you elaborate a bit more in terms of, be specific in terms of what it is that you're looking for, or what is that you want to find out in terms of how does it work for mature students? So, I mean, just to answer, so the fast stream is open. There's no age restriction in terms of who can apply for the fast stream program. So it's open to anyone. Even also, I recently found it's open to even people that are currently working in the civil service can also apply for the fast stream program, or people who've been in employment for over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years or so can also apply for the fast stream. So in terms of in relation to mature students, yes, there's no age restriction. There's no age limit to in terms of who can apply for the fast stream program. So I hope that answers your question, but if not, please do let us, elaborate a bit further in terms of if there's anything you'd like to know in particular in relation to mature students. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next one. And I think that you've got your hand up for that to answer. So fire away.
Okay, so anonymous attendee asked, if you're applying for a generalist role and then put a second choice, how exactly do you write off your application, either to both or to either? So basically what it is, I think for this year, you can only apply for 4 streams. So basically the application process all the way into the final selection board, which is the very last one, is exactly the same. So whether you're applying for diplomatic or generalist or project delivery, is always the same. They're only looking for your competencies. So I think, I guess maybe Emily can go a bit on it. I think or at least for me, in my interview, they asked me why did I want to work for civil service, for example. I think my first choice was diplomatic stream. They didn't ask me anything specifically about diplomatic. They won't ask you about that until you get to the final selection board, like I said. So just make sure it's just like, I guess for the first bit, it's target generally to the fast stream in general. And then once you if you're doing generalist, for example, there is no final selection board, so don't worry about that. You don't need to be specific about that. But once you get to the final selection board, you usually get like a pack of like how the assessment goes. And once you get to that, then the more specific, like why do you want to work in front of Commonwealth Office? Why do you want to work in, I don't know, I think science roles, for example. So those ones, yeah, but otherwise just target it in general.
Thank you, Colette. And I have a question here from someone who asked earlier. So the question is, if I'm a third year undergraduate, how would the program work? Will I get paid? So the early diversity internship program is targeted at first year students, whereas the summer diversity internship program is targeted at second and also third year students. And I believe some grads as well, if they want to use as a first route into the civil service before applying for the fast stream. So the summer diversity internship program is paid. It's a 6 to 9 weeks program and is a paid program, whereas the early diversity, which is the 1 week program, it's not paid, but however you will have your expenses covered, and that's based predominantly in London. So the early diversity is for first year, it's unpaid, but you have your expenses covered, and that's based in London. The SDIP, that's for second or third year students and graduates as well, and that's paid. It's a 6 to 9 weeks program, and of course the fast stream program is paid. I doubt you want to work for like 3, 4 years without getting paid. So that is a paid. So that's the question from Oddmonk. I hope I've pronounced your name correctly. Apologies if I haven't done so. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much. And we're going to move on to the next question from Mandeep Singh. And the question is, what more can you tell us about the Fast Stream Insight Day? What can we expect? Would any of you like to add to that, Emily or Colette, before I?
About the SDIP one.
When you did it, did you attend an Insight Day when you applied?
No, I mean, I guess some universities, I guess the bigger ones will have usually like they get some fast streamers in usually from that university to come and talk to them. Unfortunately,
Okay.
for me, I didn't really have that. So I mean, I guess thankfully, this one here, Elevation Networks, they do have that. So I guess you guys will talk about it more.
Okay.
I think go to your careers service as well and say, do you have anything specifically for the fast stream? Because for most of the big ones, I guess at least like the Russell Group and stuff, they usually have something going on.
Yeah. So to add to that question, in terms of what does the insight day is the whole day. So it starts from about 10:30, from 10, sorry, not 10:30, 11:30 to 4:30, 5 o'clock. So the whole idea is to it's broken down. So if you haven't already done so, so we sent out an invitation to the insight day. So on the 20th of September is the insight day for EDIP and SDIP, and on the 21st of September is the insight day for the fast streams. We sent out the invitation recently, so if you haven't done so yet, I would highly recommend that you register to the Insight Days as soon as possible. So we have 80 spaces left on a first come first serve basis. So booking now, and we've also updated the Eventbrite page, so it has the agenda on there. So it gives you an agenda actually what will be covered. So there's things like an overview about the fast stream program, about the EDIT program, and also the SDIT program. And there's a chance to also network and meet with the current fast streamers, as you're obviously speaking to Emily and Colette now, as well as who's the SDIT. So you get the chance to speak to the fast streamers and also network with the EDITs, former EDITs, and also former SDIT interns. And you also get to hear from the civil service directly to find out more about what the civil service is about, and so you have more of an understanding of what's expected of you, of what the program is about, and just more of more of an overview and an in-depth insight into the civil service and the various programs. And so I hope that's in a nutshell what the Insight Days are about, or is going to be about. And for those who have already registered, fantastic. And if you haven't done so, I would highly recommend that you do so as soon as possible. And the civil service have committed to cover transport costs for people that'll be coming in from outside London. So that's also another incentive for people to attend as well. So if you are coming from outside London, your transport costs expense will be covered. For people, obviously, it's about for traveling standard as a standard fare, not first class. I would love to travel first class, unfortunately, yeah. That'll be lovely, but not yet, not yet anyway. So when you become a minister or something, then you probably travel first class. But do they travel first class? How does it work from from the ministers you work with? I don't know.
Most of them. I mean, I guess like the actual members of parliament, they will always travel first class. I mean, if you just look at the expenses and see how much they get from it, I think they have to travel first class.
Okay.
But some of them don't.
That's not really relevant. But I was just But yeah. So like I said, that's an incentive for you guys. So if you want to attend the Insight Days, coming from outside London, book your ticket as soon as possible, and it'll be covered. Again, no first class, unfortunately. Sorry, the time will come. Don't worry. So I hope that answers your question, Mandy. And the next question, I think, from Old Monk. I hope I've pronounced that name again correctly. So apologies if I haven't done so. I'm a third year undergrad. Can I still work until I finish my degree? So the SDIP, I believe for the SDIP program, for example, yes, the answer is yes. If you're applying for the SDIP, you can still be studying, and obviously the SDIP is during the summer holidays, right?
Yeah.
So yes, so the SDIP is in the summer, so you can still. So there are people in the SDIP who are going into the final year. So yes, and also even after. So I suppose that answers your question. But then if you're in your third year, if you're going into your third year, so if you are successful, you'll be going into SDIP for next 2018, September 28th, well, summer 2018. So I suppose that you would have finished by then. So for those who are still studying or going into the third year, or will be going into the second year and will be applying for SDIP, so you can still be studying, and then SDIP is during the summer. So I hope that answers your question. And the next one is, so Colette, you want to answer?
I can answer the first half. I guess maybe Emily can answer the second half. So the question is, I'm interested in the social research program. Is it difficult to get into? Plus, what kind of support do I get from the program if I get into it? So basically, there's as far as I know, there's different pass marks for all of the schemes basically, and the pass marks are kind of generally set on like how demanding the role is and also how popular it is. So at the top of it is basically the diplomatic role, which has usually like maybe 20 to 50 places, which is really competitive. And then usually I think near the bottom, I think the one with the lowest pass mark, I think, is the digital and technology stream. So I mean, it's not to say that it's easier or harder, it's just the different pass marks. So I think the social research one's kind of like near the middle. I think no one knows what the pass marks are, so we can't tell you them. But I don't think it's as difficult to get into, but it is doable. But in terms of support, I guess if Emily knows like what kind of support you get on the stream.
So it depends what you mean in terms of support. So as I said, you will have your line manager who's responsible for you in a day-to-day capacity in your workplace, and then you also have your cohort leader, and they will support you pastorally. So if you have any qualms or questions, you can go to them. Also, it depends a little bit on the scheme. So one of the questions coming up a bit later that I might as well answer now is about mentors and whether or not you get a mentor. So partly the role of your cohort leader is to do a bit of mentoring with you. So when I meet with my cohort leader, she'll ask me about my job, what's going well, what have I learned from it, what could I improve on, and be looking at my like objectives and whether or not I'm meeting their expectations there. But I also have a mentor who's one of the senior civil servants. Now that wasn't allocated me through the scheme. That was something that I wanted. So I kind of found somebody and asked them if they would mentor me. So I would highly recommend doing that. Quite a lot of senior civil servants are really happy to be a work mentor, and it's useful to have somebody who can do that. So if it's kind of practical support, go to your cohort leader. They'll provide that. If you want something additional, I would also say that the fast streamers, generally, you have all of your other fast streamers. So I'm part of something called an action learning set, which is basically a fancy name for a group of other fast streamers that I get together with and say, I've had this problem, or I'm struggling with this at work. Is anybody else experiencing the same thing? And a good chance to kind of share your learning and share things that are challenging. So it might be something like, you know, my workload's quite heavy at the moment, or I've got a line manager who doesn't understand my needs, and it's just a good chance to share that more broadly. So yeah, I would say that there is quite a lot of support across the stream, both in terms of learning. There's also a dedicated set of training that we do. So we do learning on team building, learning on how to be assertive, all sorts of other learning stuff, and some of the specialist schemes also have specific training. So I do project delivery qualifications over the course of the scheme. So that's very specific to my stream. So that's the kind of like training and support that you would get. Yeah.
Good.
I think also, so just to mention also on the STEP, you also get a mentor. So usually it's either someone who's done the STEP like me, or most people, they have a fast streamer. So I think no matter what one you do, you will have someone there. You can even seek out people if you want, just like give you support. If you were to say something that maybe might offend your manager, but it's really on your chest, you can say that to your mentor. So there always is someone there who you can talk to. You're never alone in this kind of thing.
Fantastic. Thank you both. Just gonna go before I go to the next question. Can I make a suggestion? After you've answered the question, there should be a button that says done. Could you click on that so we know what questions have been asked? No, thank you. It just helps us to know how many questions are still.
Nice.
Good. Fab. Thank you. That's good. So we have the next question. Is it essential? Says from an anonymous attendee. Is it essential to have very relevant experience for every one of the competencies for the fast stream? So just to have a very relevant. Emily, go for it.
But they understand that you're going to need to learn. So I think, and they won't ask you a question on absolutely everything. So, and the questions they ask you are really quite broad. So I think really don't panic, but do, when preparing for your video interview, which is normally the time when they'll ask you those sorts of questions, do have a think about what it is that you have done and what experience you can pull out of that. As I say, you'll probably be surprised by how much experience you do have when you stop and think about it. You just don't realize you're learning at the time. And so I also think go look at the competencies, because they are pretty broad, and have a look at the types of things that they'd like you to be able to demonstrate. But as I say, I would be surprised if somebody couldn't think of an example of an instance where they've done something. I'd also say just like have some reserve examples as well, in case they ask you some similar questions and you need another example.
Fab. Thank you both. And the next, thanks Emily. And the next question is, when anonymous again, did any of you two complete the EDIP If so, how did you find the application process? Any tips? And that's a question for both of you.
I haven't done the EDIP, so I can't answer that one.
I haven't done it either. I know a bit about the process because it's kind of, I think it's a bit easier than the SDIP process, in which case I think you just produce some, I think it's a situational judgment test, a behavioral test, and I think there's an interview. There might be a written portion somewhere. I'm not too sure. I think if you just go on the website, I think there'll be more information, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to, but I do know some people who have done the EDIP. So if I'm allowed to give your email, if I'm allowed to give you my email, then I guess I can just find out whoever was on the EDIP and just ask them about their experiences about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we have I suppose it's about getting their permission as well. I suppose the person who's asked that question, what I would suggest, could you email us on campus at elevationnetworks.org. So that's S at the end of network. So what I'd suggest to email us with your name, so that way if Colette can get someone's details and they can actually connect you directly with that person. So if you can drop us an email, I would then we'll be able to help you to help you further. But I noticed earlier someone on one of the attendees said they have done the EDIP, and if that person is still online, could I ask you to perhaps make a mention so we can perhaps get you to share your experiences from the EDIP program? So if you are still online, drop us a message so we know who you are, and that we can get you to share your thoughts and actually how it is. Alternatively, we have the webinar, I believe, on this Friday and next week. We have someone from the EDIP who's going to be joining that as well. That'll be a good opportunity to actually to find out from them directly. So I hope that helps. Thank you. So we're gonna try and move through these questions quite quickly now. So the next one is so Emily, you're going for that one, right?
Yep. So the question is, where have I? I'm reading the wrong one. What are working hours like as a fast streamer and as a participation in the SDIP? So actually, the civil service is really, really good for getting a good work-life balance. So I'm in my contract, I'm technically contracted about 37 and a half hours or something like that, which is basically 9 to 5. And so for most of the time, I would stick with that, but I think it depends on you posting a little bit. Sometimes you'll have a posting where you do need to work more, and sometimes you'll have periods of time. I was doing a bit of work on a business case, which is basically the document where you send it up to Treasury, and Treasury say, yep, have some money to go get on with your job. And when I was producing that business case, that was quite an intense period of time, so I was working longer hours over that period. If you are consistently working longer hours, then it might be something you want to mention to your cohort leader. But generally speaking, in comparison to other like city jobs, or at least in comparison to my friends who are working city jobs, I have a good work-life balance.
That's good. Thank you, Emily. And thanks, Emily. Guys, just in case, if you can hear my colleagues in the background, so I'm currently in the office, so we're having a great day and busy time in the office. So apologies for any sounds or noise that you may be hearing in the background. Yeah, it's just a typical day in the office. So apologies for that if you can hear someone laughing out loud. Next question is from Anonymous. So do your interview for the internship or fast stream test would either of you want, actually both of you perhaps could touch on that one?
Okay.
Did the fast stream interview did it test on your knowledge of current affairs?
I guess I can answer for. Sorry,
Yeah,
you can go first then. For the internship, no, they didn't ask me. I mean, I did prepare because I've done some law internships, and for those ones, they really big on commercial awareness. So for those ones, I did do a lot of reading, and that's how I prepared for the SDIP program. But honestly, they didn't ask you about any of that. They didn't ask you what's your opinion on Brexit. Didn't ask you if you think Theresa May should resign or not. All they really think about is the competencies. So if you don't know anything about politics, and I think, don't worry, they're not going to test you. You're not going to fail if you don't know who the Prime Minister is, so don't worry about it. But you should know who the Prime Minister is.
You should know who the Prime Minister is. Really. If you don't know who the Prime Minister is, then that would be very interesting. It's not Jeremy Corbyn. Thank you. That was
Yeah,
quite
so basically I'll second that. Again, fast stream application, you don't need to have read newspapers for the past year. You don't need to have an in-depth knowledge of politics. So yeah, you should be fine.
good. Thank you. So moving on to the next one. So guys, I think it looks like we're going to go over an hour. I hope Emily and Colette, you're both happy to stay a bit longer.
Yeah,
No, it's fine. I don't have
Oh,
anything.
good. Yeah, I think, yeah, we
Yeah.
just want to go. We want to ensure that every question gets answered.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you to you both, and on behalf of the attendees, thank you as well. So the next question: is it true that after you finish your fast stream graduate program, that you become a leader for a small group of people within the civil service? Emily has volunteered to answer that one. That's obviously your best place to answer that.
So when you finish the scheme, you are applicable to apply for a grade 7 role. Not that that means a lot to anybody, but that's likely to mean that you are line managing people. However, also during the scheme, so I think one of the requirements for me over the 4 years is that I do eventually do one posting where I am line managing. So actually, I will, prior to finishing the scheme, be responsible for line managing as like other people. So it is an important skill. This is a leadership program, so normally leaders have people who they manage beneath them. So it is something that you will learn over the course of the scheme, and is likely to be the case that when you finish the scheme, you would be responsible for people.
Fantastic. Thank you, Emily. This is more of a question from me to both of you. What is the social life like working there? Obviously, when you're in the civil service, I feel something that doesn't actually give accurate reflection. Actually, what it just gives you this impression of like, oh no, there's no fun, da 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 da. You know, compared to like working in the private sector. What is it? That's from my perspective anyway. But what is it like on the sort of like from the social aspect? You know, like do people get on? You know, is it just you know, hi, morning, and bye, or what goes on?
I can only speak from I've been on one posting, so it's one team, and we have quite a good. We have someone who's actually responsible, our like social person, who organises stuff. So we've had, yeah. So we've had like picnic and rounders in the park days.
Okay.
We've had various just event like we've just moved buildings, so we had a leaving party for leaving our last building. We quite regularly take trips to the pub after work. We also have had sweepstakes, you know, when there's any kind of political opinion coming up. So we did like an American election sweepstake. But now Robin is banned from organising sweepstakes because every time we have a sweepstake, the result does not turn out the way that the officers would like it. So he's been banned from that now. But yeah, no, so it depends on your team a little bit. But if you want to see something, then why not organise stuff yourself? Like if you want to go to the pub with people after work, then just say, do you want to go to the pub after work?
Good stuff. Thank you. I suppose, no, because I think that's essential. Obviously, like, you know, with work, it's not just about everyday work. You also need to have like, you know, some time to calm down, time to actually just let your head down and have fun as well. So it's good to know that, you know, there is a social aspect as well. Good. So, guys, I know we have a lot of anonymous question, and which is fine, but also encourage to, you know, perhaps to mention if you obviously choose to mention it, so that way, if we want to engage with you after the webinar, so we know who's asking that specific question, there's any further help or support that we can offer on the back of your question. That way we can actually know who it's coming from. So I would encourage you, obviously it's entirely up to you, to, you know, say your name or ask as based on, you know, based on who you are rather than the anonymous option. But again, that's entirely up to you. I'm just more of an encouragement to say that way we know if we want to engage after the webinar, so we know who it is that we're speaking to or who that question's come from. So next question is, I'm a 3rd year undergrad, can I still work until, I think we've gone through that one already. I think we've answered that question. Yes, you can still work. We've answered that question. So the next one, over the course of the fast stream program, how many times will you be posted to different locations, i.e. over 3 to 6 months or annually?
So it depends a bit again on your stream. So I'm on year long posting, so I would only switch my posting once a year. So that probably means that I wouldn't relocate anymore. I definitely wouldn't relocate any more regularly than once a year. If you're a generalist, you might, for example, do a London post. You're on 6-month postings, so you might do a London-based posting, then you might go to Edinburgh for 6 months, and then maybe you end up back in London. So it depends on the length of your posting. I think everybody has to go to another place once over the course of the 4 years. But I don't think there's a top limit, so I think you could be moved more regularly than that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Emily. So Colette, you've got the next one, right?
Mm-hmm. So anonymous attendee asked, when will the Civil Service Human Resources Department make you aware of the success of your application? So honestly, like we said before, it kind of just depends on how fast they get through your application. Like I've applied for the fast stream and the SDIP, and they were much faster with the SDIP. For example, I had my telephone interview for the SDIP, and literally the day after, they told me that I was successful. For some people, it took them a month, it took them a week. So I think it honestly just depends on how fast they can get through your application. So I don't think anyone can really tell. You can just fingers crossed and hope that they get you through your application fast enough.
Yeah. Emily, would you like to add to that as well?
Yeah, so basically you will.
Thanks, Colette. Right, thank you. Sorry.
It all depends a little bit on when you do your assessment centre and whether or not you've got a panel after that. So once you do your assessment centre, that's like the final stage in your process. And then there'll be a period of time afterwards, and you'll find out. They'll inform you on a system. Oh, when I applied, we have the system that told you whether you'd been successful at each stage and how to progress to the next one. But yeah, there's no fixed period of time, so I can't give you a date to say you'll know by this point in time.
I mean, from the civil service, what they've suggested as well, that usually within 12 to 16 weeks of applying, you should be able to actually know the final.
Yeah.
So that's, I said 12 to 16 weeks in response to that question. Thank you to you both. And moving on to the next question. Emily.
So this person was asking about the digital and technology stream, and also about government communications and whether or not how competitive they are. Again, I don't know off the top of my head exactly the rankings of which are the most competitive, but as Colette said, normally it's ones like diplomatic service is normally quite competitive. So I think, and also I think ultimately it's not something that's worth thinking about. If you're interested in that scheme, apply for it. Like, prepare yourself, get yourself in a great place to make that application. Try your best. You don't worry about other people. They will apply. They'll do their own stuff. If you're interested, apply for it. At least that was the mentality I took when I was applying for jobs. So yeah. And the other thing on there was about, what was the other part of the question?
Like, what are they looking for?
Oh yeah, what are they looking for? Again, as Colette said, everybody's assessed the same, so it's those competencies. That's what they want. That's one of the key things that they look for. And then there's a document that outlines the application process and gives you an example of some of the different types of assessments that you will do on the assessment centre and an example scenario. So I'd highly recommend looking at that. It's basically the first document that comes up on Google if you type in civil service fast stream assessment. It's a PDF, and it will unpack the process for you. So I'd highly recommend reading that. And yeah, basically competencies. And the test, the assessments are designed to assess different ones of those competencies, basically.
Thank you, Emily. And that's also going to be covered in terms of like the competencies that have been that they look for. It'll be covered in what is the civil service fast stream and diversity internship program webinar. The first one is going to be next week, Wednesday, and then the following will be on Friday. So if you can attend either one, you don't have to attend both of them. So we'll be covering that on those webinars as well. And we'll be joined by current fast streamers and former EDIP and SDIP on those webinars. So I strongly recommend that you join that. And yeah, so that's why I would definitely recommend that. Thank you. So Colette, there's a question for you. Your name's been mentioned specifically.
Oh, great. So basically, I mentioned that, yeah, I'm a law student, so I did law and international relations at the University of Sussex. And they're basically just asking if there's any benefit for me studying law since they're a second-year law student themselves. I think with most degrees, you will get like those basic kind of skills, like the analytical kind of skills, the teamwork kind of skills. I think especially with law, since I did a lot of mooting and negotiations, I had those kind of persuasion kind of skills there. But I think in the civil service, I think yes, I think doing a degree in general has benefited me, but I know it's going to sound bad, but I don't think doing law specifically has helped since it's just those general skills that you just learn just with doing a degree. So I think if you have done a law degree, great. Just think about like all the kind of skills you've used in your degree and put it in your application. But I don't think that doing law is superior to any other degree, honestly. I think I've met people who've done like, for example, English literature, which I thought was like really wishy-washy degree, who've done like much better than me. So yeah, I think just any kind of degree you've done, you will learn those core skills that will help you a lot with the application process.
Thank you. So moving on to this. So guys, if you have, you're free to leave if you feel like if your question's been answered. But however, if you want to continue, please do hang on. We'll continue. Again, we want to go through each question. So for those of you who haven't had your question, if your question hasn't been answered yet, we will go through your questions. Bear with us. We have 10 questions left. So again, feel free to leave if you feel like your question's been answered, or if you want to end the webinar from your side, please feel free to do so. And thank you for the rest of you who are still online. So the next question is: during the fast train program, will you have a mentor guide, a mentor, I believe, a mentor, to guide you and advise you, and will you be made aware via email or through seniors in the civil service of how well your progress is going? Emily.
So I basically answered the bit about the mentor thing previously. So basically, some schemes you might get a mentor specifically allocated. I looked for one because I wanted one. In terms of how your progress is assessed, you will basically, when you start your posting, you write a set of objectives, and halfway through your posting, and then at the end of your posting, you'll sit down with your activity manager and with your cohort leader, and you'll prepare a couple of documents that look at what have I done in the posting? Have I achieved what I set out to achieve? So there's like an actual official process for assessing your achievement. But I think more than that, the best way of doing it is just to get feedback when you're in your job. So when you do some piece of work, try and ask people for feedback on that, because that's really how you will figure out how you're doing, and also learn some new tips for kind of ways that you might have been able to do something a bit better. So I definitely say the informal feedback process is the best way to learn, but there is a formal kind of, this is the end of your posting, have you achieved what you were supposed to achieve? And that's done, as I say, in alongside your person who manages your activity manager. They're like your day-to-day line manager, and your cohort leader who's responsible for seeing your progress in as a fast streamer. Yeah.
Thank you. And the next one, who would like to go for that one?
I can go for that one, I guess.
Pardon?
I can go for that one.
Okay.
So it was asked if it's best to apply early, basically, and I'm going to say no. And this is a good thing about the civil service. They don't do it on a rolling basis. There's a set time period, and even if you apply on the first minute, like I did, or literally applying on the last minute, it doesn't matter when you've applied. The only thing that matters is the quality of the application. So if you want to wait 2 or 3 weeks just to read up about the civil service, think it's for you, this plan out application, that's not going to be taken against you. So don't worry about when you apply, as long as you apply within the time period.
Thank you. Thanks, Colette. And to add to that as well, so the benefit of applying later is, you get to attend things like the insight days to give you more insights and awareness about the civil service. You get to, take advantage of the other training, programs that we have in place before you put in an application. So that's a benefit again of leaving your application more to halfway through. You're halfway through the open, that's all the open window. Emily, is there anything you wanted to add to that? Would you like to add to that? Oh.
No. So I exactly agree with what Colette said.
Yeah. Fab. Thank you. And the next one is from And the question is, how do you claim back train tickets cost for the Insight Day? I don't have the information to hand at the moment. However, what I assume what would happen would be for you to send your a copy of your train ticket, and that will then be reimbursed back to you. However, once I have that information, we will pass on to everyone who pass that to everyone who will be attending or who will be attending the Insight Days. But that, I would assume that's what would happen to send us a copy of your train ticket and the receipt, and then I'll be reimbursed to you. And next one from Yolanda. How can you best prepare for the online test? Is there anything you need to read up on to prepare?
So I would say, so your online tests, they start with a situational judgment test. If you've never done a situational judgment test, go online and look at them, because they're an odd type of test, and you get better with them with practice. So if you can find some practice ones to do with those, then that's a good idea. Once you've done that, then there's the E-tray exercise, and one of the questions later on is about E-tray, so I'll answer that one now as well. E-tray is basically what you get presented with is an email inbox, and you also get given a whole load of other information about, I don't know, like, you know what your job is, so you might get information about the bit of work that you're working on, the rest of your team. So you get a whole load of context of a scenario that you might be working on in the civil service. And then an email will come into your inbox, and you click open, and then you'll read the email, and you'll get given an option of 3 different choices to how to reply to this email. So you need to have read carefully the information that you've been given, because some of those replies might contain information that's just not true. And so you need to assimilate all of the information that you've been given and click the response that you think is the best response to that email. Now, these emails come in quite quickly. And some of them you will need to answer the first one to get the next one to come into the email inbox. It's a bit of an email thread. So you need to think about things like, who has this email come from? If it's someone who's quite senior, like you will have been given an organogram so you know who's the senior people, then you need to reply to that quite quickly, because it's quite an important request. You also need to think about, when an email comes in, is that an email that's likely to reply, that I'm going to need to respond to a couple more? Is it going to be a thread, or can I just send one reply and I'm never going to see that email again? I've replied to it. So you need to think about that, because that will help you manage the flow of the emails coming through. So that's the way that works. And then once you get to the end of that multi-choice kind of section, you'll get given one more email that comes in where you have to type a response to that email. And again, you need to have read, a lot of it's to do with how well you've kind of taken on board the information that you've been provided with. The main challenge of that assessment, to be honest, is time. How long do you have to get through them? How long you have to read the information? So it's about how quickly can you pick up on information and reply effectively.
I think 1 or 2 things to mention about the E-tray. I think one, it might have changed now. I'm not sure how it is this year. But when I did the E-tray last year, there wasn't a written portion. So perhaps it was only for that year. I think check up on it, I guess, is the first thing to say. Don't assume that it might not be, because they are changing a few things. And the second thing is, if you just go on Google and just type in, I don't know, fast stream E-tray, there was one example that was given by the provider, which I think is Cubics or something. So they have like one that's very, very similar to it. And I think it kind of just calms you a bit. Because if you just see something that's really familiar, you kind of like skip the whole panicking phase. If I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. So I think if you can just like find examples of the E-tray, I think it really will just help to familiarize yourself with how to go through it. But yeah.
And if I can ask a question on the back of that, to both of you, what would you say the E-tray exercise actually test against? What are they looking for specifically? What's the purpose behind it, would you say? I think Emily sort of touched upon it briefly about, looking at how well you respond to, to emails, I suppose, or how well you respond to things, but on time and so on, or prioritizing. What would you say, from your words and experiences, what are they looking for specifically? What does it test against?
I think it's to do with how quickly you can take on board the information that you're given. Okay. So I'm on project delivery, so my actual day-to-day job is not really fast-paced, but there are some policy jobs, some policy postings, where they might get a request from a minister that says you need to turn around some information and I need it back in the next hour. So you would very quickly have to read all you can on that thing, pull together an understanding and write a response. So partly the E-Tray is trying to test how quickly you can read through information, get a good understanding of it, and then be able to reply to somebody correctly with the information that you've just read. So I think a lot of it's to do with that, how delivering the competency is delivering at pace. That's the phrase that they use. And so I think that's one of the key things that they're trying to assess there.
Okay. And I suppose the reason why that's essential, actually, being, as Colette mentioned earlier, it's quite seen as like there's a lot of changes, like fast pace and flexibility that adaptability has been required. So I suppose, and the importance of the work as well, especially when it comes to like policies. So you need to be able to like accuracy and like, you know, things being accurate, and actually it's essential. I suppose you don't want to like, you know, a minister reading the wrong briefing on a live TV.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, now that makes sense now. I think that's useful to know. Colette, were you going to add to that, or?
I was going to add something. I forgot. So it probably wasn't important then. So that's
It'll
fine.
come back to you. It'll come back to you. Thank you. Thank you. So we have 6 more questions to go through. So we're nearly 8 more. There's just added in. We're going to go through some of the questions quite quickly. I know that there's one that requires just a few seconds answer. I'm going to go through them quickly. So the one is, let me quickly, what does the E-Tray exercise include? What's the main? I think that's just been answered. What does the E-Tray exercise include, and what's the main purpose during the application? I think that's been answered already. And does it matter if you're a recent graduate? No, it doesn't matter if you're a recent graduate. So yes, open to anyone. No, it doesn't matter. It's a quick and simple answer to that question. Also, that applies to SDIP. You can be a recent grad and also apply for SDIP as well.
I mean, I'm a graduate myself and I applied, so that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. What is pay like when you're on the fast stream graduate program, and what time are you paid? Are you weekly or monthly? You can go through that one quickly, right?
Yeah. So basically, the pay next year for starters is £28,000 a year, and you are paid on a monthly basis.
That's pretty good. Thanks, Emily. And does the civil service work with journalists? Is the question. Could you? That's from Caden Bills. Could you, when you say work with journalists, could you elaborate on what you mean, please? When you say does the civil service work with journalists? Thank you. Just gonna go through. Let's see. Oh, what's happening? So, would you advise?
News formation.
So go back to, would you advise those who are on the intelligence to research this through books and the internet?
I think my advice would be obviously you need to know what you're applying for, so definitely look at the different types of schemes and which suits you best. So do that sort of research, definitely. And in terms of preparing for the different aspects of the assessment, I would definitely do some preparation. But the best way to prepare really is to try and find practice versions. So find practice versions of situational judgment tests, find a practice version of an E-Tray, and where possible, try and get some experience that way. Yeah.
And to add to that, so sorry, go on. Sorry, Emily.
I was just going to say it doesn't make sense to do lots and lots of reading. I think that's not the best way to prepare. Yeah.
And what's really good on faststream.gov.uk, I believe, a website, and the different streams, it tells you what they're looking for. And if you scroll down on that link as well, say if you're looking for the let's say human resources stream, for example, on there you should be able to. So there's a link to actually do the practice, I believe, situation and judgment. Some of the tests, the practice tests online as well, so you can actually practice on there. And we will look to organize some mock tests as well, so to give people chances to prepare in advance. And when you apply for the program, so as of from the 14th of September, when you fill in your application, or before you fill in your application, there is a practice link that will be sent to you as well, just to give you a chance to actually just practice the first online test. So as Emily said, it's about practicing and going online, practicing other situation and judgment tests, in advance. Practice, they say, is better than, yes, good learning the theory, but practice goes a long way to actually help us actually understand and express. Learning by doing, I suppose, would be a good way to put that. So thank you. And the next, so going back to Caden again, so in news formation and articulation. So that's the question about, does the civil service work with journalists? So Emily.
Yeah, so we don't work directly with journalists, but we might respond to, there is often a comms team. So actually, tell a lie, the press office is very much about communications. I've never worked in the press office, but they will deal a lot with how does the government articulate what it's doing. And they will probably respond directly to requests from journalists. So there might be scope for working there, but for the most part, most of the government delivery would only respond to sort of freedom of information requests and things like that. And we have a comms team that would work quite carefully to make sure that we're communicating well. But normally you're not working directly with a journalist. But definitely you need to be aware as a civil servant, how would this land in the press? It's called the Daily Mail test. What would we? If we do X, Y, or Z thing, what would the Daily Mail headline be? And are we happy for that to be the case or not? So the media is really important. How we communicate our work is really important, but we wouldn't necessarily directly work with journalists.
I think there is a communication stream. I don't know how recent it is, but it's that, for example, my mentor, he's on that stream. So although he's not a journalist, he does do a lot of publication both inside the department and also externally. Like I think last month he went out with our department minister, Sir Michael Gove, and he did some things that was also in national newspapers and also in our internet as well, so like our internal comms. So I think the communications one is also something you can look at if you're thinking more of something that's a bit more journalistic, but we don't work with, say, The Guardian, Daily Mail, anything like that. We try not to anyway.
Yeah. So thank you to you both. So, Caden, are you asking that question because you are interested in sort of like the journalism or communication stream? I'm just curious in terms of the reason behind that question. Yes. Okay, the answer is yes. Okay. Thank you. And so we have two more questions. I just want to say thank you to the guys who are still online. I really appreciate that. And which one do you want to go for first, Mandeep's or the Anonymous? Which one should we want to confirm? We'll go for the Anonymous first. And I wanted to confirm for the SDIP, which I believe is for second year. Is there an application date / deadline, or is there a way to find out? So I can answer that one. So the application for SDIP opens the same day as the others, as the Fast Stream and EDIP, which is the 14th of September. And it closes, for SDIP, it closes on the 25th of October. So that's the deadline, the closing date for SDIP. And for EDIP, the application again opens on the 14th of September and closes on the 8th of November. And for Fast Stream, it opens same day, 14th of September, and closes on the same day as the SDIP, which is the 25th of August. So I hope that answers your question. And last but not least, what opportunities are available to progress further in the civil service after you've completed your 3 to 4 years on the scheme? That's obviously the one for Emily.
So as I said to you previously, as a bit of a summary for the Fast Stream, the idea is that this is a leadership program. So once you finish the scheme, the intention is that you will progress up to being the next kind of senior civil servants. So really the opportunities are vast, because the civil service employs literally everybody to do everything. It's a huge, huge organization. So hopefully over the course of the few years, you'll kind of have developed a niche that you know what aspects of it you're interested in. But definitely the intention is that you will become a senior civil servant if that's what you want to do. So, and those types of roles would be, for example, a senior civil servant would be somebody the person who's running my program. They are a senior civil servant. They are somebody who's responsible for a £1.3 billion worth of program to deliver the building of some new prisons. That's quite a large piece of work. It's a very large piece of work.
So those are the exciting.
Exactly. So it's that type of, you're talking quite like really juicy like government problems, basically.
Yeah.
And so those are the types of roles that you would be the intention you would get to do, but obviously not when you immediately after you finish. But that's the type of career progression and trajectory that you're heading into.
Fantastic. Thank you, Emily, and thank you, Colette, for answering all the questions. And guys, I just want to say, it's been an absolute pleasure. And just a quick one to before we run. Oh, we have one more question. Oh, that's from Mandip saying thank you for answering the question. You've been great. Oh, thanks, Mandip. And they have been great. I have to say, they have been great.
Could we think about, Caden said about he's on the communication stream. If we could try and find a contact for him on that stream, because I think
one of my my mentor, he's on the communications one, and I know a few others as well. So I'll get their emails now, forward it to you guys, and then I have to ask them first, and then I'll forward it to you guys, and then we can see what happens from there.
That will be fab. Thank you. And also, just to add on that, guys, if Emily, Colette, and the other fast streamers and people who've been on the SDP Needed program, they are here to support you. So grab hold of the opportunity. If you want to connect with someone, please drop us an email. The best email to reach us on is campus@elevationnetworks.org. Drop us an email, and we can, look to connect you with the fast streamers or like the E-dippers and S-dippers. It's adding another S to the acronyms now. So we're here to support you. Again, the civil services are keen to have it on board new talents onto the organization. So this is an open playing field for anyone. So this is your chance. We're here to support you. We're here to work with you, and grab hold of every single opportunity. And trust me, who knows what will happen? You guys could be in this position next year, speaking to participants who are interested in the 2018-19 program. So who knows what can happen? The next webinar, so actually I'm just going to touch upon that. Thanks for asking, Caden. So the next webinar, there's one tomorrow. Again, this is more of a Q&A, so I don't think that'll be relevant for you guys who've attended today's webinar. So the next one is the 30th of August, and the 1st of September. And that's going to be about, so what is the Civil Service Fast Stream and Diversity Internship Program? That's where we look at the program more in depth. And that's on the 30th, which is next Wednesday and next Friday. So again, they're both the same, so you can attend either the Wednesday or the Friday. If you haven't registered yet, so we have sent out, so check in your email, there should be a link on there on how to register to the next webinar. And after that, we have the insight, so an evening with the fast streamers and the interns on the 8th of September. That's going to be at the Elevation Network London office. That's an informal sort of panel style discussion and opportunity to network with the fast streamers and the interns. And also on the 20th and 21st of September, that's when we have the Insight Days at the Civil Service in London. So if you haven't already done so, please sign up to those. And we have, Caden, go back to your question. So we have sent out an email, but if you haven't received an email yet, I'll suggest to check your spam or junk inbox. So it might have gone in there. So we have sent out an email. So please check in there. But if you haven't received an email, drop us, we'll send you the relevant information. And I think those are the next events. So next webinar, next Wednesday, the 30th of August, and Friday, the 1st of September. And evening with the fast streamers and interns on the 8th of September. And then the Insight Days at the Civil Service is going to be on the 20th and the 21st of September. Those are the next events coming up. Other than that, just to round up, I was going to ask Emily and Colette, how would you sum up in a short sense, how would you sum up your experience so far in the civil service?
Oh, I've loved it. I've really loved it. For me, it's about, I really enjoy kind of getting, even if my day-to-day is not always the most exciting or the most influential, because I'm only just starting out, so I'm not given like all the responsibility. I really enjoy working on a tough problem. So actually the prison service, if you've been watching the news or reading the news, like the prison estate is a tough place at the moment. There's a lot of violence and a lot of problems. And so I've really enjoyed being part of a program that's actually trying to tackle some of the issues there. So I think if you are somebody who likes that sort of thing, who likes social problems and dealing with social problems, then definitely like that's the thing that I've enjoyed the most.
Fantastic. Thank you. How about yourself, Colette? How would you sum up?
Yeah, I think I just have to echo that. It's like, for me, for example, I really wanted to work in the F0. I'm not going to lie, F0 Home Office. I got put in DEFRA. The first thing I said is, what is DEFRA? I didn't know what it was. Because I went from high expectations to low expectations, and honestly, DEFRA's been amazing. The work I've done has been really interesting.
What is DEFRA? Just out of interest.
It's the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. It's one of the really smaller departments. So on see if you haven't heard of it, we're not going to be offended. It's really small. It's literally like in the corner of Whitehall. But no, so the work I've done is amazing. I've learned lots of new things. I have the opportunity to work with amazing people. Everyone is just really, really, really nice. Like literally, like, this morning, for example, I had a conversation with someone in the elevator. I don't know who they are. I probably might not see them again, but still, it's just like a really nice atmosphere. So I don't regret applying, and I don't regret being in DEFRA one bit. So I think definitely apply. Even if you think it's something that's like, I don't know what this is, I'm not sure I want to do it anyway, because guaranteed, even if you don't like it, you'll learn something from it anyway.
Fantastic. And just to add to that, actually, one of the things that civil service actually would like to highlight is, don't focus on the departments, just focus on the appliance. It's about learning, it's about developing. It's not department, the whole idea is, let's also use the word quite a lot on this webinar, is actually leadership. It's about leadership development, it's about personal development, it's about, self-development. So it's less about the department and more about actually how you grow and what you learn. And to echo what Colette just said as well, it's, even if you don't like the department, you leave there actually having learned something about yourself or having developed something about yourself. So just want to sum up on that, it's more about growth and less about departments.
Yeah. Also, the departments do so much stuff that it's impossible to say, oh, I like that department or I won't like the other department. An awful lot of it is about who you work with and your team, and so I think don't basically judge by department. It's not the best way. Just go open-minded into whatever post
that's exactly what I was going to say. Just be open-minded. Well, we're on the same page. That's good. Be open-minded. And guys, just want to say, I think these guys who are still online deserve a shout out. So Adam, Hobbs, thank you for staying all the way to the end. Caden, thanks for staying to the end. Daniel, thanks for staying to the end. Dolly, Mandeep, Miranda, and Shade and Yolanda, thank you guys for staying to the end. And a massive thank you to Colette and Emily for staying to the end as well and answering all your questions. And I'm super excited because this is the first time we've actually had the fast streamers and the SDPs joining in the webinar. So I'm really looking forward to I've been looking forward to this day. So I'm so excited that we've actually had a chance to have this webinar, and you've actually got the chance to hear directly from people on the program, to hear about the experiences. As I said, as an organization, we are here to support you with your application. Please, guys, honestly, go for it. Go for it. This could be you next year. Sitting in these webinars, sharing about, talking about what it was like for you being on a webinar and asking questions. As I said, the sky's the limit, but again, there is no limit. The limit is really self-imposed, and there is no barrier, irrespective of your ethnic background, your educational academic background, or your socioeconomic background. There is no barrier. The civil service is actually here to create, have an opportunity for everyone. So we're here to support you, to hold your hands, to give you the best possible chance to have a successful application. So please, 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 please grab hold of the opportunity. Do not hold yourself back, and don't let, perceptions, whatever it is, hold you back. Go for it and be open-minded. And we're looking forward to meeting you all in person at the first sort of face-to-face event on the 8th of September. And we hope you'll be joining us at the next webinar on the on the 30th and the 30th of August and the 1st of September. Other than that, guys, thank you to everyone. Thanks again to Colette and Emily for joining. Thanks to the attendees for joining. And we'll look forward to connecting again. And thanks ever so much for your time. If you have any question, as I said, drop us an email on campus@elevationnetworks.org. So that's campus@elevationnetworks.org. Or give us a call, go on the website, find out more about what we do as an organization. We're here to support you. Thanks, guys. Have a lovely evening and enjoy the rest of your week. And we look forward to speaking soon. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.